The graveyard shift, a time when most of the world is asleep, leaving just a handful of workers to keep things running through the dead of night. But what if the shadows conceal more than just darkness during those isolated hours? What if there are entities, forces, or presences that come alive when the rest of us slumber? In this video, we'll hear the haunting accounts of 3 overnight workers whose routine shifts took a turn into unspeakable terror. This is the world of our night nurse, a world where the normal becomes abnormal, and the ordinary becomes extraordinary. Her nights are filled with strange noises that seem to emanate from nowhere, shadows that dart past empty rooms, and disembodied voices that whisper her name into the silence. Every night, as she makes her rounds, she hears the unmistakable sound of footsteps, a shuffling as if someone is following her, but there's never anyone there. She turns around, her heart pounding in the otherwise silent corridor, but there is only emptiness. Every night, the same unsettling ritual. The sound of footsteps, the turn, the emptiness, and the shadows. They're always there, flitting in the corner of her eye. They seem to move past empty rooms, vanishing as quickly as they appear. It's as if the hospital itself is alive, its walls breathing, its corridors whispering secrets only she can hear. In the quietest hours, when even the night itself seems to hold its breath, she hears a voice. It's soft, almost a whisper, calling her name. It's not malicious or threatening, but it sends a chill down her spine nonetheless. It's a voice that shouldn't be there, a voice in the silence, a voice in the night. Our night nurse is a rational woman. She tries to explain these occurrences logically. Maybe it's the pipes or the wind, or just her tired mind playing tricks on her. But deep down, she knows something else is at play. She knows that in the dead of night, in the silence of the hospital, she is not alone. Despite her fear, she remains undeterred, believing that she is perhaps not alone in the hospital, even in the dead of night. A hotel, a symbol of hospitality and comfort, can sometimes harbor unsettling secrets. Our tale begins with a night porter, a silent sentinel in the hushed hours of the night at a remote hotel. His duty may seem mundane to some, but the quiet solitude of the night shift held eerie surprises. As the moon rose and the world slumbered, he was the keeper of the keys, the guardian of the hotel's corridors, and the sole witness to its nocturnal mysteries. His nights were often punctuated by the sound of laughter echoing from empty rooms, the mirthful echoes bouncing off the silent walls. But there were no guests in these rooms, just a lingering silence that followed the laughter, as chilling as a winter's gust. Then came the lights, flickering without reason or rhythm. The bulbs were new, the wiring checked and double-checked, but still they danced with an unpredictable pulse, casting eerie shadows that played tricks on the eyes. And the doors, oh, the doors, they had a life of their own. They would swing open and slam shut with no breeze to guide them, no hand to push them. It was as if an unseen guest was making their way through the hotel, a spectral occupant claiming their space in the stillness of the night. Naturally, our night porter was not one to let such strange happenings go unchecked. He began to dig into the hotel's history, peeling back the layers of time. What he found was a rich tapestry of stories, tales of joy, sorrow, and everything in between. But among these stories, there were a few that stood out, tales of unexplained occurrences, of guests who checked in but never left, of lives cut short within the hotel's walls. It was these stories that gave context to his experiences, that breathed life into the inexplicable. He began to see the laughter, the lights, the doors, not as mere oddities but as echoes of the past, as remnants of lives lived and lost within the hotel. But what does one do with such knowledge? How does one continue to walk the corridors, to turn the keys, to stand sentinel in the face of the inexplicable? Our night porter chose to embrace it. He saw himself not just as a custodian of the hotel's present, but also as a keeper of its past. He accepted the laughter, the lights, the doors as part of his nightly routine, as part of the hotel's unique charm. He chose to respect these spectral guests, to give them their space, to let them continue their eternal stay. He continues his duties, aware that the hotel's guests may not be limited to the living. His nights are filled with more than just solitude now. They are filled with stories, with history, with a connection to the past that few can claim to have. And so the hotel, a symbol of hospitality and comfort, continues to harbor its secrets, watched over by its night porter, a silent sentinel in the hushed hours of the night. In the stillness of a warehouse at night, the quiet can sometimes be deafening. Imagine this. You're a watchman in a sprawling warehouse, surrounded by towering shelves stocked with boxes. The only sounds are the low hum of the cooling system and the occasional creak of the building settling. It's a job that requires vigilance, patience, and courage. But what happens when the usual night shift takes an eerie turn? Meet our watchman, let's call him John. John had been working the graveyard shift at this warehouse for the better part of a decade. His nights were typically uneventful, punctuated only by the occasional flicker of a light bulb or the distant hoot of an owl. But one night, as John patrolled the darkened aisles, he noticed something that made his heart skip a beat. A box, previously stacked on a high shelf, was now on the floor. He chalked it up to a faulty arrangement, put it back in its place, and moved on. Yet, the following night, the same box was on the floor again. This time, John felt a chill run down his spine. Something wasn't right. He couldn't shake off the feeling that he was being watched, that he wasn't alone in the warehouse. This pattern continued for several nights, boxes moving on their own, unexplained noises echoing through the aisles, strange drafts of cold air. John's unease grew into dread. He decided to investigate, hoping to find a logical explanation for these occurrences. He checked the CCTV footage, but found nothing out of the ordinary. He inspected the shelves for any structural issues, but they were sturdy as ever. The warehouse, it seemed, held no answers for him. Yet every night, the strange occurrences persisted, and with them, the sense of an unseen presence grew stronger. John felt as though he was being watched, followed, observed. His every move was under scrutiny by something, or someone. In the dead of the night, with nothing but his flashlight to cut through the darkness, the warehouse transformed into a labyrinth of shadows and uncertainty. The once familiar aisles became eerie pathways, the silence a haunting symphony of unknown whispers. But John, despite his fear, continued his duty. He patrolled the warehouse night after night, never sure of what he might encounter. He felt a strange camaraderie with this unseen entity. It wasn't menacing, but its presence was unnerving. Every creak, every draft, every shadow seemed to whisper a tale of the unseen, a tale that intertwined with John's own story, creating a chilling narrative of the night shift, a narrative that defied logic and challenged reason, a narrative that echoed in the silence of the warehouse, as deafening as the stillness that enveloped it. And so, John continues his lonely vigil. As he stands guard over the stillness of the warehouse, he can't shake off the feeling that something unseen stands guard with him. The night shift is not for the faint-hearted, it seems. As we journey through the lives of our night shift workers, we unearth the unique challenges they face. From hospital corridors, echoing with the whispers of the past, to the silent, vast warehouses, where the solitude is almost overbearing. Each location serves as a backdrop for unsettling occurrences, from unexplained noises to fleeting apparitions. Yet these workers face the eerie, unknown, night after night. Their resilience is admirable, their dedication unwavering. Even in the midst of uncertainty, they continue their work, their courage and spirit shining. Indeed, the night shift is a different world, one where the ordinary becomes extraordinary and the familiar becomes mysterious. So as the sun sets and the world goes to sleep, these overnight workers themselves for another night in the company of the unknown,